Chapter 2 Physical Features of India. Physical Features of India. You have already learnt earlier that India is a vast country with varied landforms. What kind of terrain do you live in? If you live in the plains, you are familiar with the vast stretches of plain land. In contrast, if you live in hilly region, the rugged terrain with mountains and valleys are common features. In fact, our country has practically all major physical features of the earth, that is mountains, plains, deserts, plateaus and islands. The land of India displays great physical variation. Geologically, the peninsular plateau constitutes one of the most ancient landmasses on the earth's surface. It was supposed to be one of the most stable land blocks. The Himalayas and the northern plains are the most recent landforms. From the viewpoint of geology, Himalayan mountains from an unstable ozone. The whole mountain system of Himalaya represents a very youthful topography with high peaks, deep valleys and fast flowing rivers. The northern plains are formed of alluvial deposits. The peninsular plateau is composed of igneous and metamorphic rocks with gently rising hills and wide valleys. Major physiographic divisions. The physical features of India can be grouped under the following physiographic divisions. Number 1, the Himalayan mountains. Number 2, the northern plains. Number 3, the peninsular plateau. Number 4, the Indian desert. Number 5, the coastal plains. Number 6, the islands. The Himalayan mountains. The Himalayas, geologically young and structurally fold mountains, stretch over the northern borders of India. These mountain ranges run in a west to east direction from the Indus to Brahmaputra. The Himalayas represent the loftiest and one of the most rugged mountain barriers of the world. They form an arc which covers a distance of about 2400 kilometers. Their width varies from 400 kilometers in Kashmir to 150 kilometers in Arunachal Pradesh. The altitudinal variations are greater in the eastern half than those in the western half. The Himalaya consists of three parallel ranges in its longitudinal extent. A number of valleys lie between these ranges. The northernmost range is known as the Great or Inner Himalayas or the Himadri. It is the most continuous range consisting of the loftiest peaks with an average height of 6000 meters. It contains all prominent Himalayan peaks. The folds of the Great Himalayas are asymmetrical in nature. The core of this part of Himalayas is composed of granite. It is perennially snowbound and a number of glaciers descend from this range. The range lying to the south of the Himadri forms the most rugged mountain system and is known as Himachal or Lesser Himalaya. The range lying to the south of the Himadri forms the most rugged mountain system and is known as Himachal or Lesser Himalaya. The ranges are mainly composed of highly compressed and altered rocks. The altitude varies between 3700 and 4500 meters and the average width is of 50 kilometers. While the Firfanjal range forms the longest and the most important range, the Dhauladhar and the Mahabharat ranges are also prominent ones. This range consists of the famous valley of Kashmir, the Kangra and Kullu valley in Himachal Pradesh, This region is well known for its hill stations. The outermost range of the Himalayas is called the Shivaliks. They extend over a width of 10 to 50 kilometers and have an altitude varying between 900 and 1100 meters. These ranges are composed of unconsolidated sediments brought down by rivers from the main Himalayan ranges located farther north. These valleys are covered with thick gravel and aluminium. The longitudinal valley lying between Lesser Himalaya and the Shivaliks are known as dunes. Dehradun, Kotli Dun, and Patli Dun are some of the well known dunes. Besides the longitudinal divisions, the Himalayas have been divided on the basis of regions from west to east. These divisions have been demarcated by river valleys. For example, the part of Himalayas lying between Indus and Sutlej has been traditionally known as Punjab Himalaya, but it is also known regionally as Kashmir and Himachal Himalaya from west to east respectively. The parts of the Himalayas lying between Sutlej and Kali rivers is known as Kumaon Himalayas. Kumaon Himalayas. The Kali and Tista rivers demarcate the Nepal Himalayas, and the part lying between Tista and Dihang rivers is known as Assam Himalayas. There are regional names also in these broad categories. Find out some regional names of the Himalayas. The Brahmaputra marks the easternmost boundary of the Himalayas. Beyond the Dihang Gorge, the Himalayas bend sharply to the south and spread along the eastern boundary of India. The Brahmaputra marks the easternmost boundary of the Himalayas. Beyond the Dihang Gorge, the Himalayas bend sharply to the south and spread along the eastern boundary of India. They are known as Purvanchal or the eastern hills and mountains. These hills running through the north eastern states are mostly composed of strong sandstones, which are sedimentary rocks. Covered with dense forests, they mostly run as parallel ranges and valleys. The Purvanchal comprises the Patkai Hills, the Naga Hills, the Manipur Hills, and the Mizo Hills. The Northern Plain. The Northern Plain has been formed by the interplay of three major river systems, namely the Indus, the Ganga, and the Brahmaputra, along with their tributaries. This plain is formed of alluvial soil. The deposition of alluvium in a vast basin lying at the foothills of the Himalaya over millions of years formed this fertile plain. It spreads over an area of 7 lakh kilometers. The plain being about 2400 kilometers long and 240 to 320 kilometers broad is a densely populated physiographic division with a rich soil cover combined with adequate water supply and favorable climate. It is agriculturally a productive part of India. The rivers coming from northern mountains are involved in depositional work in the lower course due to gentle slope. The velocity of the river decreases, which results in the formation of riverine islands. Do you know Majuli in the Brahmaputra river is the largest inhabited riverine island in the world? Do you know Majuli in the Brahmaputra river is the largest inhabited riverine island in the world. The rivers in their lower course split into numerous channels due to deposition of silt. These channels are known as distributaries. The northern plain is broadly divided into three sections. The western part of the northern plain is referred to as the Punjab plains, formed by the Indus and its tributaries. The larger part of this plain lies in Pakistan. The Indus and its tributaries, the Jhelum, the Chenab, the Ravi, the Beas, and the Satluj originate in the Himalayas. This section of the plain is dominated by the Doabs. Do you know Doab is made up of two words, Do meaning two and Ab meaning water. Similarly, Punjab is also made up of two words, Punj meaning five and Ab meaning water. The Ganga plain extends between Ghaggar and Teesta rivers. The Ganga plain extends between Ghaggar and Teesta rivers. It is spread over the states of North India, Haryana, Delhi, UP, Bihar, partly Jharkhand and West Bengal to its east. Particularly in Assam lies the Brahmaputra plain. The northern plains are generally described as flatland with no variations in its relief. It is not true. These vast plains also have diverse relief features. According to the variations in relief features, the northern plains can be divided into four regions. The rivers, after descending up from the mountains, deposit pebbles in a narrow belt of about 8 to 16 kilometers in width, lying parallel to the slopes of the Shivaliks. It is known as Bhabar. All the streams disappear in this Bhabar belt. South of this belt, the streams and rivers re-emerge and create a wet, swampy and marshy region known as Terai. This was a thickly forested region full of wildlife. The forests have been cleared to create agricultural land and to settle migrants from Pakistan after partition. Locate Dudhwa National Park in this region. The largest part of the northern plain is formed of older alluvium. It lies above the footplains of the rivers and presents a terrace-like feature. This part is known as Bhangar. The soil in this region contains calcareous deposits locally known as Kankar. The newer, younger deposits of the floodplains are called Khadar. They are renewed almost every year and so are fertile, thus ideal for intensive agriculture. The Peninsular Plateau. The Peninsular Plateau is a tableland composed of the old crystalline, igneous and metamorphic rocks. It was formed due to the breaking and drifting of the Gondwana land and thus making it a part of the oldest landmass. The plateau has broad and shallow valleys and rounded hills. This plateau consists of two broad divisions, namely the Central Highlands and the Deccan Plateau. The part of the peninsular plateau lying to the north of the Narmada River, covering a major area of the Malwa Plateau, is known as the Central Highlands. The Vindhya range is bounded by the Satpura range on the south and the Aravallis on the northwest. The further westward extension gradually merges with the sandy and rocky deserts of Rajasthan. The flow of the rivers draining this region, namely the Chambal, the Sindh, the Betwa and the Ken, is from southwest to northeast, thus indicating the slope. The central highlands are wider in the west but narrower in the east. The eastward extensions of this plateau are locally known as the Bundelkhand and Baghelkhand. The Chota Nagpur Plateau marks the further eastward extension drained by the Damodar River. The Deccan Plateau is a triangular landmass that lies to the south of the river Narmada. The Satpura range flanks in its broad base in the north, while the Mahadev, the Kaimur hills and the Maikal range from its eastern extensions. Locate these hills and the range in the physical map of India. The Deccan Plateau is a higher in the west and slopes gently eastwards. An extension of the plateau is also visible in the northeast, locally known as Meghalaya, Karbi, Anglong Plateau and North Kachar Hills. It is separated by a fault from the North Kachar Hills. It is separated by a fault from the Chota Nagpur Plateau. Three prominent hills ranges from the west to east at the Garo, the Kasi, and the Jaintia Hills. The Western Ghats and the Eastern Ghats mark the western and eastern edges of the Deccan Plateau respectively. Western Ghats lie parallel to the west coast. They are continuous and can be crossed through passes only. Locate the Thal, Bor and Pal Ghats in the physical map of India. The Western Ghats are higher than the Eastern Ghats. Their average elevation is 900 to 1600 meters as against 600 meters of the Eastern Ghats. The Eastern Ghats stretch from the Mahanadi Valley to the Nilgiris in the south. The Eastern Ghats are discontinuous and irregular and dissected by rivers draining into the Bay of Bengal. The Western Ghats cause orographic rain by facing the rain bearing moist winds to rise along the western slopes of the Ghats. The Western Ghats are known by different local names. The height of the Western Ghats progressively increases from north to south. The highest peaks include the Anaimudi and the Dodabetta. The highest peaks include the Anaimudi 2695 meters and the Dodabetta 2637 meters. Mahendragiri 1501 meters is the highest peak in the Eastern Ghats. Chevroy Hills and the Javadi Hills are located to the southeast of the Eastern Ghats. Locate the famous hill stations of Udagamandalam, popularly known as Ooty and the Kodaikanal. One of the distinct features of the peninsular plateau is the black soil area known as Deccan Trap. This is of volcanic origin, hence the rocks are igneous. Actually, these rocks have denuded over time and are responsible for the formation of black soil. The Aravalli Hills lie on the western and northwestern margins of the peninsular plateau. These are highly eroded hills and are found as broken hills. They extend from Gujarat to Delhi in a southwest to northeast direction. The Indian Desert. The Indian Desert lies towards the western margins of the Aravalli Hills. It is an undulating sandy plain covered with sandy dunes. This region receives very low rainfall below 150 mm per year. It has arid climate with low vegetation cover. Streams appear during the rainy season. Soon after they disappear into the sand as they do not have enough water to reach the sea. Luni is the only large river in this region. Barchans, crescent-shaped dunes cover larger areas, but longitudinal dunes become more prominent near the Indo-Pakistan boundary. If you visit Jaisalmer, you may go to see a group of Barchans. The coastal plains. The peninsular plateau is flanked by a stretch of narrow coastal strips running along the Arabian Sea on the west and the Bay of Bengal on the east. The western coast, sandwiched between the Western Ghats and the Arabian Sea, is a narrow plain. It consists of three sections. The northern part of the coast is called the Konkan, Mumbai to Goa. The central stretch is called the Kannad Plain, while the southern stretch referred as the Malabar coast. The plains along the Bay of Bengal are wide and level. In the northern part, it is referred to as the Northern Circar, CIR, while the southern part is known as the Coromandel coast. Large rivers such as Mahanadi, the Godavari, the Krishna and the Kaveri have formed extensive delta on this coast. Lake Chilka is an important feature along the eastern coast. Do you know the Chilka Lake is the largest saltwater lake in India? It lies in the state of Odisha to the south of Mahanadi Delta. The islands. You have already seen that India has a vast mainlands. Besides this, the country has two groups of islands. Can you identify these island groups? Locate the Lakshadweep Islands group lying close to the Malabar coast of Kerala. This group of islands is composed of small coral islands. Earlier, they were known as Lakkadive, Minicoy, and Amindive. In 1973, these were named as Lakshadweep. It covers small area of 32 kilometers. Kavaratti Island is the administrative headquarters of Lakshadweep. This group of islands is composed of small coral islands. Earlier they were known as Lakkadive, Minicoy and Amindive. In 1973 these were named as Lakshadweep. Kavaratti Island is the administrative headquarters of Lakshadweep. This island group has great diversity of flora and fauna. The Pitti Islands, which is uninhabited, has a bird sanctuary. Now you see the elongated chain of islands located in the Bay of Bengal, extending from north to south. These are Andaman and Nicobar Islands. They are bigger in size and more numerous and scattered. The entire group of islands is divided into two broad categories, the Andaman in the north and the Nicobar in the south. It is believed that these islands are an elevated portion of submarine mountains. These island groups are of great strategic importance for the country. There is great diversity of flora and fauna in this group of islands too. These islands lie closer to equator and experience equatorial climate and has thick forest cover. Do you know India's only active volcano is found in Barren Island in Andaman and Nicobar group of islands. A detailed account of the different physiographic units highlights the unique features of each region. It would, however, be clear that each region complements the other and makes the country richer in its natural resources. The mountains are the major sources of water and forest wealth. The northern plain are the granaries of the country. They provide the base for early civilizations. The plateau is a storehouse of minerals, which has played a crucial role in the industrialization of the country. The coastal region and island groups provide sites for fishing and port activities. Thus, the diverse physical features of the land have immense future possibilities of development. Next chapter, drainage. The term drainage describes the river system of an area. Look at the physical map. You will notice that small streams flowing from different directions come together to form the main river. Which ultimately drains into a large water body such as a lake or a sea or an ocean. The area drained by a single river system is called drainage basin. A closer observation on a map will indicate that any elevated area such as mountain or an upland separates two drainage basins. Such as upland is known as a water divide. Such an upland is known as water divide. Do you know the world's largest drainage basin is of the Amazon River? Drainage system in India. The drainage systems of India are mainly controlled by the broad relief features of the subcontinent. Accordingly, the Indian rivers are divided into two major groups, the Himalayan rivers and the peninsular rivers. Apart from originating from two major physiographic regions of India, the Himalayan and the peninsular rivers are different from each other in many ways. Most of the Himalayan rivers are perennial. It means that they have water throughout the year. Himalayan rivers are perennial. It means that they have water throughout the year. These rivers receive water from rain as well as from melted snow from the lofty mountains. The two major Himalayan rivers, the Indus and the Brahmaputra, originate from the north of the mountain ranges. They have cut through the mountains, making gorges, gorges. The Himalayan rivers have long courses from their source to the sea. They perform intensive erosional activity in their upper courses and carry huge loads of silt and sand. In the middle and the lower courses, these rivers from meanders, oxbow lakes, and many other depositional features in their floodplain. They also have well developed deltas. A large number of the peninsula river are seasonal as their flow is dependent on rainfall. During the dry season, even the large rivers have reduced flow of water in their channels. The peninsula rivers have shorter and shallow courses as compared to their Himalayan counterparts. However, some of them originate in the central highlands and flow towards the west. Can you identify two such large rivers? Most of the rivers of peninsular India originate in the western Ghats and flow towards the Bay of Bengal. The Himalayan rivers. The major Himalayan rivers are the Indus, the Ganga, and the Brahmaputra. These rivers are long and are joined by many large and important tributaries. A river along with its tributaries may be called as river system. The Indus River system. The river Indus rises in Tibet near Lake Mansarovar. Flowing west, it enters India in the Ladakh district of Jammu and Kashmir. It forms a picturesque gorge in this part. Several tributaries, the Jaskar, the Nubra, the Shayok, and the Hunja, join it in the Kashmir region. The Indus flows through Baltistan and Gilgit and emerges from the mountains at Attock. The Sutlej, the Beas, the Ravi, the Chenab, and the Jhelum join together to enter the Indus near Mithon Court in Pakistan. Beyond this, the Indus flows southwards, eventually reaching the Arabian Sea east of Karachi. The Indus plain have a very gentle slope with a total length of 2900 kilometers. The Indus is one of the longest rivers of the world. A little over a third of the Indus basin is located in India in the states of Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh and Punjab, and the rest of Pakistan. Do you know, according to the regulations of the Indus Water Treaty 1960, India can use only 20% of the total water carried by the Indus river systems. This water is used for irrigation in Punjab, Haryana, and the southern and the western parts of Rajasthan. The Ganga river system. The headwaters of the Ganga, called the Bhagirathi, is fed by the Gangotri glacier and joined by the Alakananda at Devaprayag. The headwaters of the Ganga, called the Bhagirathi, is fed by the Gangotri glacier and joined by the Alakananda at Devaprayag in Uttarakhand. At Haridwar, the Ganga emerges from the mountains into the plains. The northern point of the Ganga delta, the river bifurcates here. The Bhagirathi Hooghly as distributary flows southwards through the deltaic The Ganga is joined by many tributaries from the Himalayas, a few of them being major rivers such as the Yamuna, the Gagra, the Gadak, and the Kosi. The river Yamuna rises from the Yamunotri glacier in the Himalayas. The Yamuna river rises from the Yamunotri glacier in the Himalayas. It flows parallel to the Ganga as a right bank tributary meets the Ganga at Allahabad. The Gagra and the Gadak and the Kosi rise in the Nepal Himalayas. They are rivers which flood parts of the northern plains every year, causing widespread damage to life and property, whereas they enrich the soil for agriculture use. The main tributaries which come from the peninsular uplands are the Chambal, the Betwa, and the Sun. These rise from semi-arid areas, have shorter courses, and do not carry much water in them. Find out where and how they ultimately join the Ganga. Do you know the Namami Gange program is an integrated conservation mission approved as a flagship program by the Union government in June 2014 to accomplish the twin objectives of effective abatement of pollution, conservation and regeneration of the national river. Ganga. You may explore about this project at nmcg.nic.in. Namami Ganga. Enlarged with the rivers from its right and left bank tributaries, the Ganga flows eastwards till Farakka in West Bengal. This is the northernmost point of the Ganga Delta. The river bifurcates here. The Bhagirathi Hooghly as a distributary flows southwards through the deltaic plains to the Bay of Bengal. The main stream flows southwards into Bangladesh and is joined by the Brahmaputra. Further downstream, it is known as the Meghna. This mighty river with water from the Ganga and the Brahmaputra flows into the Bay of Bengal. The delta formed by these rivers is known as the Sundarban Delta. Do you know the Sundarban Delta derived its name from the Sundari tree, which grows well in marshland. It is the world's largest and fastest growing delta. It is also home of Royal Bengal tiger. Sundarban Delta is also the home of Royal Bengal tiger. Royal Bengal tiger. The length of the Ganga is over 2,500 kilometers. Look at figure 3.4. Can you identify the type of drainage pattern formed by the Ganga river system? Ambala is located on the water divide between the Indus and the Ganga river systems. The plains from Ambala to the Sundarban stretch over nearly 1800 kilometers, but the fall in its slope is hardly 300 meters. In other words, there is a fall of just 1 meter for every 6 kilometers. Therefore, the river develops large meanders. The Brahmaputra river system. The Brahmaputra rises in Tibet east of Mansarovar lake, very close to the sources of the Indus and the Sutlej. It is slightly longer than the Indus, and most of its course lies outside India. It flows eastwards parallel to the Himalayas. On reaching the Namcha Barwa, it takes a U-turn and enters India in Arunachal Pradesh through a gorge. Here it is called Dihang, and it is joined by the Dibang, the Lohit, and many other tributaries to form the Brahmaputra in Assam. Do you know Brahmaputra is known as the Tsang Po in Tibet and Jamuna in Bangladesh? Tsang Po in Tibet and Jamuna in Bangladesh. In Tibet, the river carries a smaller volume of water and less silt as it is cold and a dry area. In India, it passes through a region of high rainfall. Here, the river carries a large volume of water and a considerable amount of silt. The Brahmaputra has a braided channel in its entire length in Assam and forms many riverine islands. Do you remember the name of the world's largest riverine island formed by the Brahmaputra? Every year during the rainy season, the river flows its banks, causing widespread devastation due to floods in Assam and Bangladesh. Unlike other North Indian rivers, the Brahmaputra is marked by huge deposits of silt on its bed, causing the riverbed to rise. The river also shifts its channel frequently. The peninsular rivers. The main water divide in peninsular India is formed by the Western Ghats, which runs from north to east close to the western coast. Most of the major rivers of the peninsula, such as the Mahanadi, the Godavari, the Krishna, and the Kaveri, flow eastwards and drain into the Bay of Bengal. These rivers make deltas at their mouths. There are numerous small streams flowing west of the Western Ghats. The Narmada and the Tapi are the only long rivers which flows west and make estuaries. The drainage basins of the peninsular rivers are comparatively smaller in size. The drainage basins of the peninsular rivers are comparatively smaller in size. The Narmada basin, the Tapi basin, the Godavari basin, the Mahanadi basin, the Krishna basin, the Kaveri basin. Do you know the Narmada River Conservation Mission has been undertaken by the government of Madhya Pradesh by a scheme named Namami Devi Narmade. You may visit their website namamidevinarmade.mp.gov.in in to learn more about it. All tributaries of the Narmada are very short and most of these join the mainstream at right angles. The Narmada basin covers parts of Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat. The Tapi basin. The Tapi rises in the Satpura ranges in the Betul district of Madhya Pradesh. It also flows in a rift valley parallel to the Narmada, but it is much shorter in length. Its basin covers parts of Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, and Maharashtra. The coastal plains between Western Ghats and the Arabian Sea are very narrow. Hence, the coastal rivers are short. The main west flowing rivers are Sabarmati, Mahi, Bharatpuja, and Periyar. Find out the states in which these rivers drain the water. The Godavari Basin. The Godavari is the largest peninsular river. It rises from the slopes of Western Ghats in the Nasik district of Maharashtra. Its length is about 1500 kilometers. It drains into the Bay of Bengal. Its drainage basin is also the largest among the peninsular rivers. The basin covers parts of Maharashtra. About 50% of the basin area lies in Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, and Andhra Pradesh. The Godavari is joined by a number of tributaries such as the Purna, the Varda, the Pranahita, the Manjira, the Vayaganga, and the Penganga. The last three tributaries are very large. Because of its length and the area it covers, it is also known as the Dakshin Ganga. The Mahanadi Basin. The Mahanadi rises in the highlands of Chhattisgarh. It flows through Odisha to reach the Bay of Bengal. The length of the river is about 860 kilometers. The drainage basin is shared by Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, and Odisha. The Krishna Basin. Rising from a spring near Mahabaleshwar, the Krishna flows for about 1400 kilometers and reaches the Bay of Bengal. The Tungabhadra, the Koyna, the Ghatprabha, the Musi, and the Bhima are some of its tributaries. Its drainage basin shared by Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Andhra Pradesh. The Kaveri Basin. The Kaveri rises in the Brahmagiri range of the Western Ghats and it reaches the Bay of Bengal in south of Cuddalore in Tamil Nadu. Cuddalore in Tamil Nadu. The total length of the river is about 760 kilometers. Its main tributaries are Amaravati, Bhavani, Hemavati, and Kabini. Its basin drains parts of Karnataka, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu. Besides these major rivers, there are some smaller rivers flowing towards the east. The Damodar, the Brahmani, the Baitarni, and the Subarnareka are some notable examples. Do you know the river Kaveri makes the second biggest waterfall in India, known as Shivasamudram waterfalls? The hydroelectric